Hello, everybody. My name's Cavendish, and it's great to be back with you all again. And here we are celebrating horror on the occasion of Mother Horror's birthday. So happy birthday, Sadie, and thank you for having me back. This time, I'm going to be giving a little reading from my latest book from Flame Tree Press, which is called In Darkness, Shadows Breathe. All you need to know so far is that Vanessa Tremaine, the main character Nessa, is recuperating in a large women's hospital following major cancer surgery. The other characters featured in this little extract are Paul, her husband, and Mariam, who is her oncologist, and Nessa is our narrator. Paul came to see me at every visiting time. He brought fresh nightwear and took away my dirty washing. He brought me books and took away those I'd read. I watched daytime TV for the first time in my life. Ancient reruns of Columbo, Macmillan and Wife, and Bewitched thoroughly entertained me. And meanwhile, my body did its job and I carried on healing. Mariam continued to be pleased with my progress, and 10 days after my operation, they took my catheter out. Another couple of weeks and I would be home again. Then, out of nowhere, the nightmares began again. I'd switched off the TV. The lights had dimmed in the corridor outside. The ward was in sleep mode and my eyes felt weighed down. I twisted myself into my best comfortable position, lying on my right side with my legs slightly drawn up. Half asleep, half awake, I heard the whisper and felt the cold breath on my cheek. Vanessa, come to us. Even though I told myself not to, I couldn't help myself. I pushed back the sheet and crawled out of bed, wincing at the now familiar pain. My feet found my slippers and I tied my dressing gown over my nightdress. I made my way carefully to the door and opened it. At the far end of the silent corridor, there would be someone at the nurse's station. But, almost opposite me, a door I couldn't remember noticing before silently opened. An indeterminate shadow crossed over the threshold and disappeared inside. Oddly, I felt no fear, just an irresistible urge to follow it. The door was much older than the others in the hospital and had no glass observation panel. It closed quietly behind me. As it did so, I was thrust into a dark gloom with only sufficient light to see that I had entered an old and neglected corridor. Greenish-yellow paint peeled off the walls and ceiling. I looked down at the floor. Filthy, mildewed linoleum in a nondescript shade of blue. The place smelled dank and musty. Cobwebs hung off old gas mantle wall lights. It was an incongruity. I must be dreaming, and yet a part of me felt sure I wasn't. Vanessa, come. I knew I should turn back and get out of there, but I couldn't. Something made me go in the direction of that voice. A shadow flew across my field of vision. It could have been a woman. I wasn't sure. Who are you? I asked. I need to know who you are and what you want from me. I surprised myself at the firmness of my voice. No answer. I turned around. Behind me I could see nothing, not the door I'd entered by, nor the corridor I'd walked down. Ahead of me, nothing but the endless corridor, stretching apparently to infinity. It seemed familiar, but how could it be? I had never been here before in my life, yet a brief memory of the tunnel in my dreams swept across my mind. A sudden movement in the corner of my eye distracted me. Unmistakably a woman this time. I could only make out her silhouette, but she seemed to be dressed in a long cape. A woman straight out of a Dickens novel. I must be dreaming this. Surely it couldn't be real. I stared. She was weeping, her image clearer with every second. She didn't seem to notice me, as if we existed in two parallel worlds. But I could see her, even if she couldn't see me. I could tell the skirt she wore was of some cheap material, a muddy brown colour and much mended. She also wore a jacket. This had once been red, probably quite a bright red, but now appeared faded and stained. while her cape was muddied at the hem and also old. It had once been black, but now looked almost rusty in parts. A straw hat of poor quality and riddled with holes perched on top of her unkempt pile of dirty blonde hair. This was a poor Victorian woman, and she didn't belong in this hospital in the 21st century. But then, in that particular corridor, neither did I. In that particular corridor, the 21st century didn't exist. Her weeping grew louder and she spoke, her words almost indecipherable through her choking sobs. How could I come to this? The workhouse. I wish I was dead. She vanished, leaving an echo of her cries behind. Behind me, the corridor had grown lighter so that I could retrace my steps. I wanted to race out of there, but no way would my legs allow for that. My best motion was still a shuffle. Finally, I made it to the door and turned the antiquated Bakelite knob. Safely through, I leaned against it, relieved to smell the clean aroma of the ward corridor, while trying to collect my thoughts. A nurse I didn't recognise approached me. Whatever are you doing out here? Still trying to comprehend what had happened, I shook my head. I went for a short walk through here. I stepped aside and pointed at a blank wall. That's impossible. There was a door there. I went through it and down this derelict corridor. There was a woman. I stopped. The nurse's incredulous expression told me that if I carried on, she would feel duty-bound to report that Vanessa Tremaine, who had been progressing so well, was now certifiably insane. I'll go back to bed now, I said. I must have dreamed it. That's quite possible. Come along, I'll help you. She took my arm and steered me gently but firmly back to my room. Tucking me into bed, she said, If you want anything, just press your buzzer and we'll come and help you. Save your exercise for daylight hours. I will, thank you. Sorry to be a nuisance, I didn't mean to be. You're not, don't worry. Sleep well. But I didn't sleep at all for the rest of that night. I knew what I had seen, even if I couldn't have seen it.